Hello, thank you for joining us today. We're here for a webinar on InfoPath replacement. We're going to share with you the power of NITRO Studio forms and workflows. We've got a lot to get into today. InfoPath replacement is a big subject, very important one. And before we get into too many of the details here, just a couple housekeeping things. This is meant to be a value add, this webinar. So we want your questions. We want to hear from you. Don't be shy. Go ahead and use that question box on the right-hand side there and go to webinar, and we'll get back to you. We'll either answer them during the webinar, or if they're a little bit more involved, we can always follow up with you afterwards to answer your questions one-on-one and get some more details. And with that being said, this will also be more of a high-level overview. Obviously, InfoPath replacement, there's a ton to talk about. There's a lot to it. And each InfoPath replacement process is a little bit different because everyone has a different number of forms, has different needs. So we would definitely encourage you to reach out to us after the webinar, and we can have a one-on-one conversation with, you can speak with one of our InfoPath replacement specialists. This is something that we do day in, day out, and it's something we really enjoy. So we're here for you, and it's not a hard sell or anything like that. There's no obligation. We're just here to help you through this process. And lastly, this webinar will be recorded. So within about 24 hours, you'll see it on our YouTube channel as well as on our website. And if you've registered for the webinar, you will also receive an email. So now that housekeeping is out of the way, my name, by the way, is Krista White. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Crow Canyon, and I'm proud to introduce our CEO, Scott Restivo, and our COO, Jeff Priest. And we're Crow Canyon Software. We are been in business for 25 years. We've, as I mentioned, we've had quite a bit of experience with InfoPath replacement. And I'm not going to take up any more time. I know we all want to get to the heart of the matter here. So with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our CEO, Scott.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Krista, for the introduction. And glad that everyone could join us on this InfoPath replacement webinar. We have a lot of interest in it. There's presumably a lot of people still using InfoPath Forms and looking for solutions. Now, what we've been saying, we've been doing this for over 5 years, these InfoPath replacement webinars, I think even longer than that. And at first we were doing a lot of talk about why you should move off and how it's outdated and all that. Now we're just going into the how. So it's not a question of when, the time is now. It's not a question of why, it's how. So what we want to do in this webinar is help you get to the how to do it. And hopefully, if not now, then in the near future, that you're moving off of InfoPath Forms into modern solutions. If you look at the timeline of InfoPath, it was first created in 2003, that's 20 years ago, before iPhones, before mobile became so hot, before cloud, Amazon Web Services and Azure got into place. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. And then Office 365 came out, and then Microsoft decided to end development of InfoPath because it wasn't adapted to the cloud and mobile world that had evolved in the last 10 years. So even when they ended development of InfoPath, that was 10 years ago now. We first started doing these webinars. It wasn't 10 years ago, of course. It was maybe soon after, but now it's getting longer and longer and longer, and it's getting to the point of 10 years, and now it's 2023, and we have ChatGPT, we have AI services coming out. So anybody on InfoPath is really being left in the dust, and it's time to move off it. The InfoPath ended 10 years ago. It was first developed 20 years ago. It's not mobile friendly. It has limited capacity with the latest browsers that come out, like Edge and all the updates, the Chrome and all that. Also not, the mobile browsers, of course, and the mobile interfaces. It uses this older technology that's kind of heavy. It's heavy in the sense of it isn't, speedy in how it's just heavy, in terms of bandwidth. It's no longer developed a long time ago, 10 years, and new data sources are not being able to connect to it because they weren't made for technology that's nearly 20 years old. You're missing out on all the latest and greatest. Mobile, cloud, modern UI, portals, chats and AI services, improved integration with databases. So really, it's time to move off. So I'm not going into any more why on this. InfoPath is old technology. It's time to move. And we want to be, how can we help you do it? Well, we've done it for a number of organizations. We'll just showcase a few of them. In Air, Wisconsin, we replaced 400 forms. The systems administrator there, Lori, we worked with her, and she She just loved what we were doing and was really excited by it, and very successful implementation. We worked with a group in Hawaii, and they do services for organizations in Oahu. And again, another very successful. And that's just two of many that we have done. And we have numerous case studies, numerous experience with moving people off of InfoPath to modern solutions using primarily our NITRO Studio and our tools that we have developed. We have a plethora of resources. We have the website, we have our experience, we have a number of tools that we can help you with, and ways we can do things. So what we want to do now is go into the how. And before we do that, though, what we wanted to do, Krista, we will, if you don't mind, the audience doesn't mind, we wanted to pop up a few, two polls, not a few, just two, just only two, asking about two simple questions. The first one, and Krista, you can get the poll going if you like. And we'll leave that open for like 20 or 30 seconds, give people a chance. It's, what is preventing you? What is holding up the InfoPath replacement? And that's a question I have in my own mind. Like, why, what is the hindrance? What is the problem? Is it management buy-in? You're not getting that. They don't want to spend the money. It's too much effort. It's going to impact your organization. And they, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of attitude. So we'll do that poll quickly if people don't mind. Chris, you can close that when you feel like it's appropriate answers.
Sure. Looks like we've got a lot of responses here. Looks like a little bit of everything, but cost and impact to users in particular really stand out as big factors.
Right, okay. And so you can close that and open up the next one. And we just want to get some gauge about how many forms you might have to replace, if you don't mind. Just giving us a number that fits in one of the ranges we're talking about there. You got that second poll going, Kristen? I don't see it on my end.
Yep, well, we've got results coming in. Looks like so far majority are over 100 forms.
Oh boy, all right.
See, results are still coming in. We've got a distribution there, certainly among all the categories. But yeah, it looks like our big winner here is people with over 100 forms to migrate.
Okay, well, you can close that and we'll get back to the screen sharing. You can see my screen again, right? There, Krista?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. So, okay, we wanted to talk about the how, the Crow Canyon approach. Now, given that a lot of, or several, I don't know how many, had over 100 forms, it's totally understandable why you'd still be on it. It's not, we're not going to make it glib and easy and say there's just a button you push and everything becomes automatically a modern form. It does take some effort. It does take some work, some plan and focus. And that's, we can understand why people have delayed the process. It might be, cost may not be the primary factor, but it's a factor. Also, you may have to retrain users. Users are used to using InfoPath Form or doing it in a certain way. And now you may have 100 or 1,000 or more users who need to adapt to the new way, the new form, the new look. And there's also like a confidence factor. Like, well, if we're doing okay with this, it's like, I know I have a friend who has a, I think it's 2010 Honda Civic, and it's, got a lot of miles on it, but it doesn't have Bluetooth, it doesn't have the backup camera, it doesn't have new safety features. And I always wonder why he keeps it going. Well, it's just, maybe it's just convenience, or, doesn't want to spend the money for a new car or something like that. But, what happens when you stay in that mode, you're missing out on the newer technologies. It's not just that you're keep going the way you are, and of course the car will keep running, all that, but InfoPath Forms may keep working, but you're not setting your organization up for the future in any way at all. And now I see that especially with the ChatGPT and the OpenAI services that we're working with for the past several months to develop those tools, how that's going to accelerate. It's going to be, almost going from horses to cars rather than an old car to a new car. It's really quite a very different, and anybody who doesn't want to make this move, your competitors will, or other people will, or you're just going to keep running more and more inefficient organization and lose many productivity gains you could have by moving to a modern solution. So it all starts with a conversation. I think what we found the way to work with people is just, talk about it. We're not going to, It's not like Chris says, it's not a hard sell. It's actually something we're very interested in. It intrigues me as the CEO, but also other people at the company. What's going on? Why, we want to introduce you to these new technology, and we see the value in them. We see a lot of customers very successfully moving in there and gaining a lot of value. And we just wonder, what can we do to help you in that journey too? So conversations basically about how many forms need to be moved, what are they being used, how are they being used, what departments, kind of an overview of or the modern technologies to get improved. And maybe like the process is really outdated and there may be a newer way to do things now that mobile's available, or other factors of modern technology, the cloud that wasn't available when you first implemented that InfoPath form. They want to talk to you about those. Also, we and other vendors have some pre-built applications inside of the SharePoint and Office 365 spaces. And maybe you don't need to convert the form and just, move off it in greenfield with a new application. That's another possibility. So we want to go through all those, have this conversation and really get to understand how we could help, where we could help you move the InfoPath project along. We also talk about the impact on the company. We understand that there's a lot of factors involved. It's not just putting the new technology in place. You have to learn how to use it, how your people, your employees would use it. We look at evaluating the forms. Are they simple or complex? How much effort to replace? Are there improvements in the process? We want to prioritize the work, and we all look at resource allocation, things like that we go through and say, how can we make this happen? What is the best way, most efficient way to move these? Is it better to do like a few forms at once that are critical ones that are really high use, or there are a whole bunch that we could just, they're not needed any longer, or there's other ways to do things? It's just a matter of evaluating and give you a chance to kind of look at your needs and your requirements and say, is it time to kind of go through it and say, just blindly replicated InfoPath forms may not be the best solution. It's a time to kind of evaluate how your procedures and processes are working. I don't want to belabor this too much. It's just important to have the conversation. I think you get the point that, you look at what you have, see how we can improve it, or what alternatives there are, find the right tools for making the move. And we'll talk about what we think is one of the best tools, of course, our NITRO Studio in a moment. And then you want to build out a plan and get going. The whole thing here, and we were talking about this internally, is just, it's really important to get going, to get it started somehow. And if you wait, the longer you wait, the further you fall behind. Technology is funny that way. You can't stay in a static mode because technology moves ahead so fast that staying where you are is actually falling behind. And we could go with this mode of, we'll do it for you, work with you, we'll help convert the forms, or we'll just train you on the NITRO Studio and how you can use that. And most of our customers actually have gone the method of getting our NITRO Studio in place, learning how to use it, and then using it in order to make the modifications, make the new forms and replace them. That gives them a lot of freedom to do it at their own pace, and as they do more and more, they get better and better at it. Of course, we're here to support them. We can throw in professional hours if we need to assist here and there. But basically, they do it. It becomes a project, and then they find they can actually automate other processes. Maybe nothing that has to do with InfoPath. At the moment, there's a new process that came in place, and they want to automate it. And our solutions work on SharePoint on premises, if you happen to be on that, and also on the Microsoft 365 space, including the GCC and the GCC High. Again, I just want to emphasize the one point that it starts with a conversation. We really want to call right now, 1-800. No, not quite like that. But, just one time and you feel it's appropriate and your team wants to, you bring this up to the team. Hey, this looks like Crow Canyon's got something that can add to the conversation. Then we'll be glad to have that conversation with you and find out what the requirements and needs are. Now, what I want to go into now is talk about our NITRO Studio and how people have found that to be a great solution for InfoPath replacement. We provide a complete set of tools with no code, low cost, easy to use. We have extensive training, and it's ideal for InfoPath replacement. Because a lot of times when we first came out with NITRO Studio, like 6 or 7 years ago, it was in the height of the InfoPath replacement, when it was first getting going. And a lot of people came to us and said, well, InfoPath has this, does NITRO Studio have it? And a lot of times it did, but if our NITRO Studio didn't, we added in a lot of features that were in InfoPath in order to make the move from InfoPath to NITRO Studio more comfortable for people who were familiar with the InfoPath forms creation process. So now we have it in whatever was there inside of our NITRO Studio. Our NITRO Studio has a forms designer, a visual forms designer. We can do a lot with the forms, with their dynamic, responsive, link items, repeating rows. We can add custom actions, database integrations, e-signatures, portals. We have templates, all kinds of interesting things going on with the forms designer. It's grown into a very sophisticated tool for building forms in the SharePoint and Office 365 spaces. We have workflows and custom actions. These are buttons or things that run automatically for approvals, escalations, auto assignment, and all the other things that go on into automate a process, right? We have a visual form. No, this should say visual workflow designer. It's not the forms designer, it's the visual workflow designer. And here we can put in gateways that show the flow starts here based on a certain decision. Like say it's a marketing project, we'll go over here and create a channel in Teams. And then there's another decision. Is it a trade show is it a trade show, a marketing, marketing event of a trade show or not? If it's a trade show, you go through this. If it's not a trade show, no, I mean, whatever. This is just an example of how you can get these sophisticated workflows going quite easily using our visual workflow designer here, and making it all work with different gateways, decision points, and a large number of actions that are possible once it hits that part of the workflow, including access and outside databases, calling REST APIs, Azure functions, many other things, as well as working with SharePoint lists and executing different scripts or working with Teams. We do a lot with Teams now. If you're on M365 and you're using Teams, we can send messages to Teams, create cards in Teams, and do a lot through the visual form designer. And again, a visual workflow designer. And that could be either through a custom action, which is a button on the form, or it could be like when a field changes on the form, or a certain process or a certain timer, like hey, it's a contract that's going to expire. Well, 30 days before, you want to inform someone. If it's an approval for a leave request, you can do approval workflows. It's just amazing a number of things you can do with the workflow designer. We also have a number of other things. We have in the NITRO Studio that comes with it, and that really helps accelerate business process automation. There's the portals, the reports, the AI services, formatting, email, e-manager, email sync. A lot of people use email sync for sending in emails or from a web form or direct email, and becomes a ticketed or request or issue in the system, and then it goes through the process. So what we're talking about here is using NITRO Studio to replace InfoPath, but also to optimize your environment, your workflow environment, and to make it more efficient and easier for users and your customers, employees to use the system and find a lot of value in it, because they're used to using M365 already, or SharePoint, or they're used to using a mobile device. There's even more. We have list rollup, modern UI. A print manager is a really good one because we can print out invoices or POs or work orders or whatever. And those could be printed on paper or just printed out as PDFs and then sent through the email. So it's a lot going on with the NITRO Studio. We've been using it for years to build applications, and also people use it to build their own applications. So it's kind of like it works in two ways. One is you get NITRO Studio, and then you use it to build, you learn and then use to build your own solutions. It could be any kind of application at all. It's very, very widespread. We have people using it for things we never would have thought of. And it helping their business run more efficiently. The other thing we do is we have a number of preset applications that we built on top of our NITRO Studio, kind of the common core business applications that people use. We have the, we call it NITRO Help Desk now. We just came out with a new version of the Help Desk called NITRO. We also have a NITRO Service Desk. We have asset management that ties into the service desk. So if you wanted to track IT issues as well as assets, they becomes a unified system for our help desk. And we have also customer service, facility requests, work orders, equipment tracking, security access, a number of other things, including document management and contracts and HR. And one big one that's lately is purchasing. A lot of people are asking about purchasing solution on M365 to streamline the purchasing process. So this could be an option for you if you want to say, okay, we have this process or procedure or whatever running inside of InfoPath, using an InfoPath form, I mean, and we want to modernize it. We don't necessarily want to go through the trouble of creating a whole new form and a whole new workflow when there is a pre-existing application already out there that we can just put in, just greenfield, start over with our purchasing request application or our HR leave request or vacation request, or if you have a security access or you have some kind of purchasing, some kind of project management type situation where you want to manage tasks in a particular department. I mean, many of these things can be done automatically. In fact, our request manager right here is a very good, oops, got a little ahead of myself there. The request manager program is a very good way to take a generic kind of request and, in other words, the program lays a foundation of input from the user, either through email or a form or a portal or even texting, and then even Teams, and then it goes through approval process, and then a fulfillment process. So this kind of technique of input, approval, fulfillment, resolution can be adapted to many, many different kinds of requests. It could be anything, customer complaints. It could be need for some kind of, marketing materials. I mean, it's very widespread, this request management system. Now, what we've done, I hope, just summarize before I go into the next one is, we've been doing this a long time. InfoPath replacement, we're very familiar with it. We're here to help you. We've done a lot of other successful implementations. We'd be glad to help you with it. It all starts with that conversation of saying, like, look, what do we have? What's the scope? What's going on? Just kind of get a sense of how this project's going to be approached. And then we have this NITRO Studio, which is a very useful and powerful tool for doing the actual implementation of the new workflows in a modern environment. Right? You use a mobile, cloud. And also what we're doing now is NITRO Studio has graduated into being part of what we call our NITRO Intelligence platform. Now, this is where InfoPath is really being left in the dust. Any old solution like that, even Lotus Notes or Access, is that we're bringing AI into the business process automation world. So NITRO Studio is one part of what we're doing now. We have NITRO Studio, Intelligent Forms and Workflows, and this mainly would be your interest if you're doing InfoPath replacement, but also sets you up very, very well for the future, because going forward, AI is going to become more and more involved and infused into the business process automation world. And we have NITRO AI services. We work with Azure OpenAI and cognitive services with GPT. We have a tool that will use your enterprise data to develop a knowledge base. I'll go into that in a moment, an AI powered knowledge base. We have the Engage bot for Teams. If you have to use Microsoft Teams, we have a bot where the users can just go there, and it's not just a chat bot in the sense of Q&A or FAQ bot. It's actually a business process automation bot. So what the person will say is, I want to buy something, or whatever. It could be natural language like that. I need a new laptop or something. And then it's using natural language in the bot. It'll pop up a form that says, okay, here's your purchase request form. And then in the form, it's in Teams, a form in Teams in the bot, and you could fill it out. Some of it's filled in, ready, but you can choose things from a drop list and, put in information or whatever. How many is this, that, and the other thing you want to buy. And then when you send it in, it's recorded in the back-end application, which sits in SharePoint. But what happens is the manager who needs to approve it would get a message in Teams saying, somebody, Scott, wants to buy a new laptop. Do you approve this? And that manager in Teams, which could be on the mobile device or desktop, would be able to hit a button, approve or deny, make some comment, and then it goes back to approval all through Teams, the Engage bot in Teams. This is our Engage bot, part of the NITRO Studio intelligence platform that I'm talking about here. And then it would go back and forth in Teams. Now in the back end, anybody who wants to be administering the system can see all the purchase requests or all the leave requests or all the help desk tickets or whatever. But in the bot, you can have a very interested in what we call it engage, because it's an engaging interface for creating, updating, approving, closing, anything that's going on in the back end. And this gives a lot of flexibility to our programs and bring it into the modern world. You can also do other things in the bot, like search to KB or send notifications and things like that with the bot. So it's a very useful. And then the other part of the intelligence platform is our applications. I showed you the list a little bit earlier, and those all come from a combination of using these tools, primarily, like I say, NITRO Studio Forms and Workflows, the print manager and the email sync and the reporting and everything else I mentioned on that, along with the AI services, if that's appropriate, if that's useful, and the Engage bot to build these applications. So I don't want to scare you away too much in the sense of like, oh, you got to go to this whole intelligence platform. It's just there as a future possibilities and options. But I think the first critical thing is getting off of the InfoPath to a modern solution, and then we could add the bells and whistles later. Let's go a little deeper into what we're doing with AI. We're bringing AI to business processes. We have this new acronym. We call it ibpa. It came from Crow Canyon, the idea of combining BPA and AI, and you have ibpa. It's no longer BPA, it's ibpa. That is Intelligent Business Process Automation. We have NITRO Studio AI is one of our domains, and we're using chatbot and other AI tools to accelerate business efficiency and productivity, as it says there. And some of the things we came out with recently is an AI-powered knowledge base for self-service. That's not as simple as it seems. What it does is it takes your enterprise data, heterogeneous data, meaning heterogeneous, I mean there's PDFs, there's manuals, there's stuff in HTML, there's stuff in maybe in the ticketing system you have or other places, and all different databases. And because ChatGPT can assimilate all that, read all that, it then provides an easy way to summarize. Not easy, but it summarizes it all in its own magic, way of doing that, of your enterprise data. And there's tricks to it. I did a whole webinar, I think like a couple of weeks ago, on what we're doing with that. If you want to look up the details, it's on our webinar page about using AI to transform business processes, because we're really deep into this, is because it's so exciting and interesting. It really is, and powerful. What you can do with this ChatGPT when you apply it to business process automation, and other AI services apply to business process automation. So what happens now is that when the user has a prompt, or like a line, really, they type in a question, whether in the bot or in a portal or somewhere else in our system, it will, instead of just returning a list of searches in the KB, it will now go out using ChatGPT and go to the enterprise data set that you've established, and then give you an answer that's appropriate. Instead of giving you 5 or 10 KB articles, it gives you, like, well, say it was about a printer. Here's how you fix the printer. To fix the printer, you do blah, 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 blah. And if you want more information from Dell's website, if it's a Dell printer, go here. You can do all kinds of really amazing things that accelerate, especially in an IT help desk, a resolution in self-service. They say 60% or some odd number like that are repetitive inquiries from help desk users, from employees. And if the bot can answer 24/7, any day of the week, then it can really help reduce the staff workload dealing with those repetitive questions. So it's better. It's like a knowledge base on steroids, or even more than that, because now you're getting this summary given the person the answer right there, rather than make the person look through 5 or 6 KB articles or 10 KB articles that may or may not apply. It also takes a lot of existing data and that you already have, and consolidates it into this enterprise database, you could call it, that is used by the ChatGPT mechanism to produce the answer. So you can see, like, we're getting way beyond InfoPath Forms here. The one other thing that we've coming out with recently is this NITRO Forms generation using ChatGPT. Let me tell you what that's about. That means that in the prompt for, as a form designer, in the prompt for that, the form designer prompt, person would get, I need a purchase request form that does blah, 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 Or I need a leave request form that does blah, blah, blah. Well, ChatGPT, because it has so much experience, or so much experience is quite, I don't know how you phrase it. Is it experience, intelligence, some kind of software mechanism of some sort, goes out and knows what all these different forms should have in it, and it gives back a format that we then interpret into the NITRO form, and it gives you basically a real-time template that is you can then work on and maybe fine tune it a bit, but pretty close we're finding to what the final solution would be, at least for the common forms. It could even get like forms that were never heard of, that you never would think of, but somebody's telling us about a brain dump form by nurses when they leave their shift at the end of the night. They have to like tell what medications, kind of update the next incoming nurse on all the status of the patients and what medications they're taking. It's an I don't say obscure, but it's a very specialized form. Well, there's a number of these throughout many industries, but it was it was able to take that prompt of build me a nurse brain dump form and build it. So we have a lot of confidence that we can take whatever forms are whatever forms are being used in your situation, whether they're currently paper or InfoPath or some other form, and use the ChatGPT to develop at least a prototype or a pretty close similar, example of what that form should look like. And then it takes a lot of the workload off of creating it. It not only creates the form, it also creates the list schema and other things that are needed behind the scenes. It's pretty amazing technology, and I think we're just at the beginning of this whole thing. Pretty exciting. So if you're on InfoPath Forms, it's time to move off. The time is now. Time is yesterday, really, but now, and let's get started. Let's get it going. I think the way to do it is have this conversation. You can give us a call, send email. Krista is funny. She put hello@crocan.com, which works. Normally it'd be sales or info or something like that. But hey, it works. It gets to the right places, gets to our team. And we're based in California, but we have offices in Rhode Island, and we have people working in South Carolina, Oklahoma, Utah, Texas. We have a development team in India. We have partners in Australia and other places, in Europe. And, we've been in business 25 years, doing InfoPath for 5 or 6, or I don't know, maybe 7 now. Time goes fast. Ever since they deprecated it, we started getting calls to replace InfoPath. So a lot of experience, a lot of successful implementations, and we're glad to talk to you about it. I want to appreciate your time coming to this webinar, and hopefully it's been useful and practical for you. And any questions, Jeff?
So right now, there are some questions, and there's some questions around that probably require a much more in-depth conversation.
Yeah, I see some about databases. This idea of, okay, I want the conversion. How is the conversion done? That's why it's not as simple as you just push a button. It's not like something you just show a demo. The conversion, see, this is what people have to realize. Sometimes you don't want to just convert that form. You want to do an analysis to say, is this form useful? How many people are using it? Are there new modern solutions and technologies that we can implement in the middle of this? And now if you did say, okay, we did all that, Scott, now we just want to convert the form. Well, that's a process of looking at that form and seeing what it has in it. And then do we just use our forms generator to generate a form? Do we go to NITRO Studio and replicate it? I mean, it's not something that you can just push the button and have it come out as a new form in NITRO Studio Forms. And it's not that simple, because there's the technology Microsoft used in the XML and the XSL form formats and all that are not, well, it just doesn't make it easy to go from one to the other by magically pushing a button. And in my experience, it's not worth doing that anyway, because there's a lot of things on the form that may need to be revised or updated, or it gives you a chance to kind of clean up anything or add new features and things like that. So there is no demo of the conversion just happening like click of a button. What happens is we need to have that conversation and say, okay, what is this form doing? What is its use? And how we can replicate it in a way that, we reproduce it in NITRO Forms that makes more sense and more value to the company, and incorporate other elements that may be needed, maybe more mobile friendly, because that wasn't a consideration in the earlier form. Maybe putting some of these AI services in and using a bot. I don't know. It's really something that we like having that conversation. I don't know if that answers the person's question, but hopeful.
Well, I think this one individual has a multitude of questions, so I think that it would be a really interesting conversation to sit down and talk through that. Well, and we know who you are, so we'll send you out a notice. The other was around FedRAMP. We've talked about state and FedRAMP internally, and so the question is, are you FedRAMP? So maybe you can address that real quick, Scott, and then I have a couple comments to make following up with that.
Right. Okay. Azure and Microsoft 365 are FedRAMPed. We run on top of those infrastructures, so therefore we inherit their FedRAMP capabilities. We are just add-ons to M365 or SharePoint. It's Microsoft that is the one that has to be FedRAMPed. It's our software is just simple. I'm not simple. There's simple. It's not, but basically it's the simplest way of putting it is they're add-ons to M365, and they work fully within that environment. They do not go beyond the Microsoft Office 365 and Azure environments. And if people see what we can do with NITRO Studio in a high secure environment, we work a lot with GCC high, but this can also apply in other circumstances. We can put our tools into your Azure. So therefore it becomes a dedicated Azure environment that is holding our tools, our software, as well as the M365 is holding our software. Nothing goes outside of your Azure or your M365. That is one option we have. We call it NITRO Secure, and it's been, or dedicated Azure is another word we use, another phrase, because what it does is we work with high secure military. Some people are launching rockets. We work with military. We work with the Navy. Many organizations that are highly secure and have very demanding security requirements. So, we have this solution where it sits inside of entirely in your Azure, and we have no access, of course, only for the installation and that kind of thing. But yeah, we'd be glad to work. So in our, that it becomes FedRAMP because the GCC and the GCC high are FedRAMP. So we're running on top of those.
So,
do you want to throw something else in, Jeff?
Yeah, so the other two is just, I think that maybe we've answered this along the way, but there was a question whether this was a cloud-based service or if it, this gets installed on-prem. So whether it's M365 or on-prem, yes, it does get installed in your tenant. And so it is not what we consider a traditional cloud-based service. But yeah, what I wanted to add to that, what you've said so far, and I know you've addressed this when you kind of went through some of the other out-of-the-box solutions that we've built, from request management, which is a general sort of form with process and any type of request you might have throughout the organization. But what we found is yes, we're talking about InfoPath replacement, but in the InfoPath replacement process, I want to reiterate the fact that yes, it's going to help you accomplish the move from a solution that's been deprecated to something that's much more modern, that has a lot more features that have been added on top. And we talk about workflows and custom actions. We talk about a lot of different things that are built into the tool. What we found is our customers, if they adopted the technology and went through the first sort of the InfoPath replacement phase, they've also discovered that sort of the wide and deep sort of breadth or the opportunities they have within the organization to continue to use NITRO Studio to build other applications moving forward. So it's not just, hey, let's just replace it with this tool and that's what it's going to do. It's not a tool that's going to migrate everything over and you're one and done. It is a tool and a platform that allows you to continue to build, continue to scale, to continue to drive other business process automation. And as we continue to innovate on that, you'll see, as Scott mentioned, there's all of the opportunity around not beyond automation, but automation kind of moving now into the AI world to for the entire organization to drive it into much more sort of modern work environment. And so I want to just kind of reiterate the fact that our clients have come to us for this purpose alone, and have discovered that there's much more that can be done with the tools. So it's not an investment in just migration, but it's an investment in a new tool set that's going to allow the company to modernize the workforce. You know, sort of this idea, we talk about digital transformation, right? To continue down the digital transformation path, the innovation in adopting the new technologies around ChatGPT and other AI services. So there's a really good value proposition beyond simply migrating from InfoPath to, you know, a new form type of tool. So
that's absolutely right, Jeff. It's once you get into the modern solutions and you start to move your business forward, we found, and this is just experience, you know, at work with so many customers, it's a very positive. It's just getting over that hump, you know, of like, look, we got to get, you know, it ain't broke, don't fix it is the wrong psychology, wrong saying for a business. Yeah, it's broke because it's 10, 20 years old, you know, so you need to move. I hate to be like, you know, insistent on it, but really you're missing out on things. If, you know, get management off their hesitancy there and move it forward, whatever way you can. We can help, we can talk to them. But one quick thing about, I think the cloud-based versus on-prem, yeah, in M365, NITRO Studio runs in your cloud tenant, in your tenant in the cloud. It's in your tenant. If you have SharePoint on premises, whether it's well, we don't do 2013 because it's already been extended support ended. We have 2016, 2019, and SE versions of the on-premise. The NITRO Studio will run in that too. NITRO Studio will not have SharePoint won't have teams. SharePoint on premises doesn't have teams, is what I'm trying to say. So therefore, some of these AI services and an Engage bot might not be available in the SharePoint on premises environment. We're finding more and more people move into the M365, Office 365 cloud-based environment where we install all these in your tenant. And we have our own Azure, you know, our Azure environment or your Azure environment, able to provide these AI services and the bots and the Teams integrations that we're talking about. So, you know, again, the encouragement is to start the conversation and have go for it. I mean, you know, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. If it isn't the right tool, it's not the right tool. You know, we know what it can do and what it can't do, our solutions. So it doesn't hurt to have the conversation. Now, next is Jeff, you have anything else to say? And then we'll end the webinar.
No, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that, you know, this is the purchase of a tool set that is going to do much more for you than simply, you know, help you migrate off an old InfoPath form set.
Okay. Well, thank you for attending. I'm getting a call right now. I wonder if that's something.
So yeah, we appreciate all the attendance. We appreciate the interactivity. You know, I think what's most useful is to have a conversation. I think we strategically put that slide early on and saying, let's start with a conversation. You know, consult with you, understand what you have in place today. You know, what's simple, what's complex. Let's put together a strategy as to, you know, how do we actually move forward? Sometimes, let's face it, it just seems overwhelming. And we've done this enough times to help to kind of remove that as an obstacle and create a strategy and a plan to do this in a practical way. So yeah, call us up, please, and let's have a conversation around you know, where you guys are at today. We can kind of tie that into what we've done in the past with other clients. We have a lot of experience doing this, and I think that you'll find that the conversation would be well worth your time. So yeah, please do dial that number or send us an email or respond to one of the emails that we send to you, and we'd love to talk to you.
Put together a meeting or something. All right, Jeff. Thanks for helping, Krista. Thank you, and appreciate everyone attending. And hopefully we'll hear from you, and we'll help you along your InfoPath journey, replacement journey here. Okay. Everybody have a good day. Thanks everyone again. Goodbye for now.
All right, take care.